Well, I am delighted to be here with all of you this afternoon, and also very delighted to have such a inspiring and strong and aligned partner in County Executive Zahalai. I'm very excited to be working alongside him, and I think you'll hear a lot of common themes in my remarks to you today. I want to thank the Downtown Seattle Association for your partnership and leadership, and in particular, John Scholes, who also served on my transition committee, co-leading our transition work group. And that was not just showing up to a meeting or two. The work of my transition team included reaching out to fellow community leaders to hear from the broadest possible cross-section of people about your needs and the things that you would like to see my administration prioritize and accomplish. And what we heard probably won't be much of a surprise. We heard that affordability, homelessness, and public safety are among the very highest priorities for almost everyone in this city. And I know that is true for downtown. Our downtown is a local, regional, national, and international destination that's one of our city's economic engines. And this year, as we welcome the World Cup, the world's most watched sporting event, to Seattle, it's going to be on display like never before. Downtown is also a cluster of neighborhoods that's home to more than 100,000 people. Downtown has incredible public spaces, amazing local businesses, a new playground, a great new public bathroom on the waterfront. We need more of those. You can clap for that. And so many other amazing things to do. In many ways, it's a model of what a vibrant neighborhood can look like. When people around the world think of Seattle, they picture the skyline tucked between the water and the mountains. They picture our stadiums, our ferries, and of course the Space Needle. They picture downtown. It's an extraordinary asset, an amazing place to visit, and an incredible place to live. It's the heart of our city and the economic powerhouse of our region. When downtown succeeds, Seattle succeeds, and the entire region benefits. Downtown is especially important to me as someone who believes deeply in cities and in urban life. My vision of urbanism means thriving, walkable neighborhoods, welcoming public spaces, transit that gets people where they want to go and connects them to opportunity, and arts and culture, small and local businesses that give a place its soul. Downtown is a model of how that vision comes together, and it can show us what a growing, thriving Seattle can be like. I believe in that vision, but it would be dishonest to gloss over the challenges that we face, especially around homelessness and public safety. And I know there are areas where we may have philosophical disagreements, but in practice, I think we all agree on the importance of addressing these issues. They are big challenges, and they're also places where we haven't seen a lot of visible progress in recent years. And at this point, I think for some, it's hard to believe that we can actually address these issues and bring people inside. But I am determined to prove that we can take on big challenges together and we can accomplish big things. We can keep our parks and public spaces welcoming and accessible to all. We can match people with services that they need and put roofs over people's heads. And we can stop simply moving people and encampments from place to place and calling that progress. That's why last week I announced a major step towards opening 1,000 new units of shelter and emergency housing this year to finally start bringing people inside in large numbers. And that's just the first step to the 4,000 units that I'm hoping to open over the course of the next 4 years. And clap for that. It's time that we started treating this an emergency like an emergency, and my plan will do exactly that. We're going to eliminate red tape and make use of city-owned properties to open new shelter more quickly than ever before. We're going to build upon models that have been proven to work, partnering with trusted service providers and developing a robust community safety plan for every site. And we're going to prioritize this work in our budget. The goal is simple: fewer people living outside, more people moving into housing, and more welcoming public spaces for everyone. And I'm immensely grateful to John and the DSA for partnering with us on our Shelter Acceleration Initiative, and I invite everyone in the room to join us in this vital effort. We also, of course, good. Seriously, it's going to be a team effort, so we're calling on all of you, but I'm very hopeful, very optimistic. We also need to act to make sure that people feel safe and are safe when they come downtown. Homelessness and public safety are distinct issues, but we must acknowledge there's also a lot of overlap. Someone experiencing a behavioral or mental health crisis may not be an issue for the police to handle, but it can make people around them feel less safe. We have to acknowledge that, and we have to do more to make all of our streets and public spaces feel more welcoming for people of all incomes and backgrounds, whether they live downtown or are tourists visiting our city for the first time. My vision for public safety includes improving public safety coordination among the many services and stakeholders that are operating in and around downtown, supporting and expanding the care department's alternative response system, and creatively maximizing its use within some unfortunate constraints that I think many of us are aware of now. Ensuring police and outreach teams focus on the highest impact areas, even as we continue to work to address our police staffing shortage. And working closely with DSA's Metropolitan Improvement District to keep downtown welcoming and clean. So downtown is home to some of the most innovative companies in the world, from global leaders to new startups. It's home to research institutions, a national center for arts and culture, and leading tourism destinations. We know that downtown works best when all of these pieces work together, feeding on each other to create something even greater than the sum of its parts. That's how we make sure that Seattle remains one of the best places on earth to start a business, grow a company, and build a career. And in the spirit of transparency, I also want to recognize that I've heard concerns from many of you about the costs of doing business in Seattle and the ways that our tax code contributes to that. As you no doubt know, the city is facing a significant budget deficit. You probably also know that I campaigned on raising new progressive revenue as one strategy to help stabilize the city budget and potentially fund new programs that address aspects of our affordability crisis. I maintain that commitment, but I also want to let you know that I very much appreciate that it is not ideal for our tax environment for businesses to be wildly out of step with neighboring jurisdictions. And you can clap for that. And I will be keeping that in mind as we look at options. And my administration is committed to engaging with DSA and other business stakeholders when we get to the point of discussing specific options. Further, I want to let you know that we are taking a very close look at our city budget, at all of the programs and services that the city currently funds, and I anticipate that we will be doing some significant reprioritization, otherwise known as cuts. As a progressive and as a socialist, you can clap for that. As a progressive and as a socialist, I believe it's very important for people to have faith in their government. And that means, among other things, being able to trust that it is a good and effective steward of our collective resources. We can't be afraid to stop funding things that aren't working well. Back to downtown. The story of downtown Seattle has always been one of reinvention and resilience. When I first moved to Seattle back in 2004, downtown was seen more as an area of office buildings than as a neighborhood, let alone a global destination. But our city has grown and transformed. From the Great Fire to the tech boom, from the waterfront transformation to global events like the World Cup, downtown has evolved, and it will continue to do so. Over the next few years, we'll see more people living downtown, more mixed-use developments, more public spaces, and stronger partnerships across the city. I strongly believe in developing downtown's great potential as a vibrant 24-hour residential neighborhood. And that means building more housing, of course, and converting some buildings when we can. But it also means working to make sure downtown includes amenities like grocery stores and, of course, childcare, a necessity not only for residents, but also for people who work in the downtown core. And it means working with our arts and culture sector to make downtown a lively destination where residents and visitors congregate at all hours. So I'm really excited that later in our program, we're going to be hearing from one of the authors of Abundance. Last year during the campaign, I certainly got asked more than once whether I had read Abundance. And I would say, no, I haven't yet, but I certainly feel like I have because it was so much in the air. Well, I finally did listen to the audiobook in December between Election Day and my inauguration, since I suddenly had so much time on my hands and nothing else was going on in my life. Some of you might know that in my pre-mayor career, in addition to being a community organizer, I was also a columnist who's written for some of our local publications. And I'm sure that if I hadn't been running for office last year, I would have found time to write my critical take on the abundance framework. Now I'm in a role where I have to muzzle myself a little bit, so I'm going to resist the temptation, having an audience with Derek here, to give my abundance TED Talk. But I wanted to mention just a couple things that I think are valuable and timely in this political moment. Here in Seattle, we have a well-established urbanist movement that's been pushing for changes to our regulatory environment to allow for more housing for quite some time. And while some of you in this room may have points of disagreement with Seattle's progressive left, I'm proud to say that I think compared to some other cities, this is a project that, broadly speaking, many of us have been on board with for a long time. And it really feels like we're at a political tipping point right now. In part, I think, thanks to Seattle becoming a city that's majority renters, where it's really becoming possible to move local land use, zoning, and permitting policies in a good direction. Some of this work, of course, has already been done, but I believe we can go much further. And I am excited to be in a position to help with that over the next 4 years. I have to say I also really love the abundance vision of a world in the not far off year of 2050 when we've achieved such abundance in productivity that the work week has been shortened to just a few days. I want to assure all of you that I don't believe this is a change that can be legislated in just one city, although I'm sure that Bellevue would love for us to try. But I do hope that 10 or so years from now, when AI has thoroughly disrupted the job market and you start hearing a national rallying cry for a 24-hour work week, that many of the far-sighted business leaders here today will hop on board that train and help us get there. You can clap for that. And in the meantime, let's work together to secure a bright future for downtown Seattle. Because when you look around this room, the civic leaders, entrepreneurs, artists, residents, and advocates who care deeply about this place, you see that our differences pale in comparison to what we have in common. And you see the reason that Seattle has always succeeded. Downtown Seattle is coming back. And together, we are going to build a downtown that is more vibrant, more inclusive, and more resilient than ever. Thank you.
Please welcome back.